Hi, what is up guys? JaretCampisi. Welcome back to the channel. We're back in the Ducati of Santa Barbara and we're going to be filming a video that's a little bit different. So basically what we're going to be talking about today is how to choose the right motorcycle for you. This is probably one of the most asked questions I get on Instagram and social media and stuff like that is just which bike should I buy and why. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Sit back, relax, enjoy the video. Okay, so when it comes to buying a motorcycle and making sure that you get the right bike, there's two main things that I personally think are the most important. So number one is your riding ability, right? So how long have you been riding and what's your rider ability level? Are you a beginner, are you intermediate, or are you advanced expert, right? The next thing is what type of riding are you going to be doing, right? So why is this all important? It's too many people go into motorcycle dealerships, they don't really know anything about bikes, or maybe they've had some bikes, their friends have bikes or whatever, and they just tend to buy what looks good, which tends to be sport bikes, right? And what can happen is if that's not the type of riding that's necessarily what you're going to be doing, you can end up on a bike that's way too powerful, very uncomfortable, and scares the shit out of you because bikes are just getting faster and faster and faster these days and more horsepower. So what would happen in that scenario is maybe you ride the bike for a couple of months or whatever, you have some close calls where you almost die, and then you end up saying maybe this isn't for me, and you sell the motorcycle and then you don't ride anymore. So that's not what we want. I want to get as many people riding as possible, and so that's kind of the whole point of this video, is making sure people pick the right bikes and making sure that you are going to be as safe as possible and you're going to be a rider for life. Okay, so we'll start with the teener wieners here, Christina Khalil. Her Instagram's always in the description if you guys can't get enough. So first of all, rider level. What's your riding level? She's a beginner. I would say she's like at the higher end of a beginner because she has owned an R3 and you rode that bike for about a year, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, about a year. You also rode my Gixxer 600. You've ridden the V2 Panigale, the 959, Monster. Yeah, the Monster 821. So she has pretty solid rider experience, but she's still gonna consider herself a beginner, right? So, okay, if we're gonna pick a motorcycle for Christina, the first thing we will start off with is looks, right? Because I think that is very, very important. So which one of these bikes?
Panigale.
Okay, well that was quick. So that's pretty normal for these bikes to come to you, like to just be like, oh my god, they're drop dead gorgeous. So let's say that she was a customer, she came in, she said, I love sport bikes, I love the way these Panigales look, and let's say that's what she wanted. Well, the first thing I would do is I would have her sit on the bike. So that's really important. And the thing is you can always ask permission at the shop, guys, to make sure you can sit on the bikes. We already talked to him about that.
No one's here.
Yeah, and obviously you wouldn't want to be doing this in flip-flops and stuff like that, but it's California, so whatever, we'll give her a break. But what happens is when you sit on the bike, you can leave it on the kickstand and she can get up into the riding position. So teens, put your hands on the handlebars, straighten them up a little bit. There you go, it's not gonna go anywhere. Yeah, so right away, she can start to feel the riding position and see how that feels. So, how does that feel? Very aggressive. Yeah.
A lot of wrist forward.
A lot of weight on your wrists, right? So, depending on the type of riding that Christina is gonna do, I would say, are you gonna be doing any track riding? Probably not. Are you gonna be doing commuting on the bike? Maybe. Yeah, maybe, but she doesn't really have a job that she drives to, so I wouldn't say that's commuting.
It would be
just for fun. A toy for fun.
Putting around.
Yeah, so weekend warrior.
Not as much highway miles. So.
Yeah, so canyon carving and fun. Okay, so a bike like this does make sense for Christina, but the other thing that we can't really show right now would be, taking the bike off the kickstand and trying to put her feet down and seeing how much room she has.
Know when wearing riding shoes and everything is I am on the ball of my feet, almost tiptoeing. Yeah. On a V2 and I'm 5'4".
Yeah. So and that's something that's important. Again, most of these bikes, they have links that you can lower them, and even just adjusting the shock.
Feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yes. So you want to make sure that you can push the bike around. It's not super heavy, but
low speeds are always the issue.
Yeah, and one of the things that it happens a lot with females, and my mom always complained about this too, is like she's so afraid that a bike says it weighs 400 pounds that she thinks she has to carry 400 pounds. Yeah, and like that's not the case. As long as you have the bike balanced and you don't get to the tipping point, you're not going to feel that weight really at all. So that's one thing that's important. So this would be one option for Christina, but what I would do based on her riding level, I would probably tell her, you know what, I think you might be happier on something like a monster. So let's go over to the monsters. Okay, so monsters. They have a couple different ranges in their monsters. They've got this, they have the 797, which is their lowest model. They have the 821, which is kind of like their beginner intermediate. And then they have a 1200, which they don't have any here, unfortunately. And obviously I wouldn't put her on a 1200. I would tell her she would either want the 797 or the 821. Now I personally would probably put her on an 821. What are you doing?
I'm not skinny enough to do.
Why don't you go to this one? I think this is an 821. No, it's not. 797. Okay. So one of the reasons why I would tell her to go with an 821 is because it's liquid cooled, and I think that it has just a little bit easier like maintenance intervals, that kind of stuff, and like it has traction control, it has ABS, it has rider modes. I think the brakes are a little bit better on this one. Don't quote me on that. But so, you know, the first thing is, what do you think about the looks of this bike, Christina?
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, looks wise, if you're asking me between the 959 or like the Panigale and the Monster, I'm gonna go with the Panigale.
Yeah, okay.
But comfort wise, this is 100 times better.
Yeah, and so that's the important part. You can see immediately when she gets on the bike, she's a little bit more upright. Yeah, when you put your hands on the handlebars.
No pain on the wrist,
yeah.
no pressure.
And so we went through this exact same process with her, and she rode the V2 first, and you liked it, right?
Yeah, I did, I liked it.
It was a little bit hot. Yeah, it is a little bit hot. But then Ducati sent us out an 821 Dark Stealth, which is basically this one with a paint scheme.
With a Termi exhaust on it.
With a Termi exhaust, and what happened when you rode that bike?
With it. It was so easy to ride around. Now, I will tell you, on the highway though, I did not like it.
Yeah, because there's more wind.
So much more wind.
Yeah.
And I mean, I rode it for 2.5 hours on the highway.
Yeah.
So if I got it, I would, you know, stay away from long highway rides, but back roads and canyons and just
even
side
city,
streets,
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And no heat issues, just super comfortable.
And
so for me, I really want one of each.
Yeah.
Days I want to be a little more aggressive, I can take the Panigale. On days that I just want to put around and just enjoy myself than a Monster. If I had to choose one, I honestly might go with a Monster.
Yeah.
Just because I don't have to sacrifice anything aside from the looks. But then I can paint the bike, change some stuff around, and make it custom to my taste. So.
Yep. And that's the other thing too is a bike's looks will change when you ride it and when you fall in love with the bike. Something that you maybe weren't crazy about the looks of, all of a sudden when you ride it and you get that connection with the bike, it makes it look cooler.
Which I never looked at the Monster.
Right?
Ever, until Ducati sent me the Stealth, which I didn't even know existed. And I was like, oh, it looks cool, it's black, I like black. And then when I rode it, instantly, within 30 seconds of sitting on it and driving out of the development, I said, I love this
You
bike.
had a connection with it. Yeah, and so that's
Very easy to ride.
Yeah, that's the important part, and that's kind of the unspoken part of the whole purchasing a motorcycle and getting the right bike for you is once you decide based on looks, based on your rider level, based on the type of riding that you're gonna do, you really need to take these bikes for a demo or a test ride because that's gonna be like the determining factor because bikes that you never thought that you would like, you could fall in love with and vice versa.
And with this one, I don't have to lower. I'm 5'4", I can touch the ground, but I feel more comfortable on this. While the Panigale, I still would like it lowered a little bit just for my comfort. So,
okay. Cool. So that's kind of how we would go through talking about what bike would be best for Christina. And I can tell you guys, if she got the V2, I don't think she would ride it as much as if she got a Monster. Yeah.
But I would get the Stealth one.
And that's the important part is getting a bike that you'll ride and that you'll be excited to ride and you're not intimidated by. And that's really, really important. Okay, so I think the next thing we'll do is I'll go through the process with myself. Coming in, I've got 20 years of riding experience. I've ridden every different type of motorcycle. And this is when it gets a little bit harder because this is when it's like, how many bikes do you need? It's always one more, right? So if
you've ridden them all.
If you have a Panigale, then you want to get like a Diavolo, you know? So it's completely different, or an X-Diavolo, or maybe you want, you know, a multi-strada plus a Panigale plus a Monster, you know? So they're all different, especially once you ride different bikes and you realize how unique they are. But for me, obviously, the Panigale strikes me first off. I've always ridden sport bikes. I'm drawn to the performance, and I love the styling and all that kind of stuff. And you can see, the first thing I would do is throw my leg over it and see how it feels, you know? So first off, I can tell you it's it's a lot of bike. So part of that is the fairings, now that they went to the wide fairing from the V4R. And if you look down, team, show them this angle right here, you can see like it's a lot of bike down here. So
is the tank bigger?
No, same size.
Same, okay.
It's just the fairings that come out a little bit.
So it makes it look a lot wider.
Yeah, it makes it look a lot wider, which is good because it gives you wind protection and stuff like that. There's a reason for it. And then I would put my feet up and I would feel the riding position. Now, to be completely honest, the riding position on the V4 is more comfortable than the V2 is.
Really?
Yeah, I'll have you sit on it, teams, and you'll see. For some reason, I think you sit a little bit more into it, and because it's a little bit wider, you can hold onto the tank. You don't get as much weight on your wrists, okay? So, for looks and riding position, this is something I could totally own. There's a reason why I ordered a V4 SP, because I love that type of riding. But to be honest, as I am getting older and as I've ridden other bikes, it was very difficult for me to choose this or choose a Diablo. So I don't know, they don't have any Diablos here, so I can't even show you that.
They sold them all.
But they do have some X Diablos in the back, so maybe I'll show you that in a minute. But for someone like me that does have that experience, I'm really open to any bike in the catalog. And we're just talking Ducatis here, but most manufacturers have the same type of bikes, you know, the adventures, the sports, you know, the naked bikes, that kind of thing. So, you know, I'm really open to any bike in here, which is really nice. But then it comes down to what type of riding do I do? You know, I don't really commute. It is part of my job, but I don't consider that commuting because I'm just doing short bursts of riding and stuff like that. So, you know, my favorite type of riding is not on the track. I'm not really a big track guy. It would be more of weekend fun and mainly just fun, similar to Christina. So I could get a bike like this, and I'd probably have a lot of fun with it. But to be completely honest, guys, for me, it's all about the fun factor, and can I get that fun factor at lower speeds? And that's why something like maybe a Streetfighter or even a Diablo could check that box a little bit better. Now, since I'm a YouTuber and these bikes just tend to get way more views, this makes more sense for my channel from that standpoint. But off camera,
personally,
what's that?
But personally, yeah, off camera.
Like off camera, if I'm just
love the X Diablo.
The X Diablo, I put more miles on than any other build bike that we had, and it wasn't as intimidating as getting on something like this.
It had the speed, the power. It was comfortable.
Yeah. Like every time you get on a sport bike or something that has 200 some plus horsepower, you know, there's more feathering of the clutch at low speeds. To have fun, you have to be going faster to get that rush of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking about, is this the day that I'm going to get pulled over and go to jail, honestly, on a bike like this? Because it's just so easy to do 180 miles an hour, 150, 120, everywhere you go. So that's something that you want to consider too, is do you like having your license? Because it's really easy to lose it on something like this. So So one of the questions, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this video, is I get a lot of questions of, hey, I love the Panigale, or I'm looking at a Streetfighter, or even a Diablo, which one do you think I should get? And that's when I go straight to, what type of riding do you do? What's your rider skill level, that kind of stuff. And if they tell me like, mainly it's just for fun, then I'm telling them like, well, it just depends. A Panigale is gonna be great for highway and like high speed turns and canyons, or you can step into something like a Streetfighter, which is going to give you a little bit more power down low. It's going to be a lot more comfortable to sit on, and it still looks really cool. Actually, these have a lot less heat than the Panigales do, because everything's open. And look at the riding position. See, I'm much more upright. When you talk about a naked bike, they call it that because it's just a stripped off fairing bike, right? So you're getting the performance and a lot of the speed and braking and handling of a Panigale, but you're a lot more comfortable and upright. So something like this, actually, I love the X Diablo is probably one of my favorite bikes. This is probably one of my second favorite bikes, right? X Diablo and Diablo. So this bike right here can check a lot of boxes if you can only have one bike, right? So if you're a guy who, you're gonna do some commuting, you're gonna do some track days, you're gonna do some canyon fun rides with your friends, this can check all of those boxes. And for me, that's always been a really cool piece of the puzzle, to have one bike that can do everything. That's why this bike has been so popular, because it really can do everything. The only thing this bike doesn't do well is long distance highway rides, because you don't have a lot of wind protection. But there are things that you can add to this that give you some wind protection. They just don't look the best. But this is a bike that could really do everything and check all the boxes. So I was considering this bike when I was thinking about my own personal bike as well. It's basically between the V4 Panigale and between a Diablo 1260. So that's kind of where I would be. Maybe we'll pull one of the guys from the shop and let's see where they would settle. All right, so I just pulled John out of the service department. He's the service manager here, and we're gonna go through the same kind of thing with him. So first off, riding experience.
Oh man,
probably a lot.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, it started on ATVs, friends' ATVs. Like, you know, like my parents and family didn't have that stuff, so it was kind of just starting on other people's ATVs and riding around. And then when I was 18, my parents dared me to get one by saying they would kick me out of the house if I got a motorcycle.
And you did.
And I tested that there, and they kicked me out of the house. You guys try it out.
So 20 years of riding experience, similar to me. We're talking advanced level, which means pretty much any bike in the showroom is open to John. He can pick whatever he wants. So let's go down the what type of riding do you do?
I mean, right now I own a Monster 1200.
Okay.
I have the 2018 Monster 1200.
The black one.
At my age, it was perfect for me. That's why I went over the Monster 1200. I've ridden sport bikes and super bikes for so long. I got sick of having numb hands. Yeah. I wanted to go on a little bit longer rides, maybe have something I could throw someone on the back of, but still have upwards of 140, 150 horsepower. You still want that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, for me, I have an RC51. Some of you out there will know that.
Yeah.
Last year, it was 05. I have an 05 RC51. I've always been a B-twin guy.
Yeah.
So that's a B-twin. And then I went to the Monster.
Yeah. And so type of riding that you do, you're not really commuting, it's more for fun?
Yeah, you know, nowadays it's more for fun. I get out there, you know, with a group of people, we hit some roads, and, you know, track days. And I try and get out there and do less lap times I can when I can. Sometimes you have the transponders out there and that stuff, so yeah. So in the last 10 years, it's been all track and a little bit of
Okay. So if you were going to pick a new bike to buy now, let's say you don't have the Monster, and you're going to trade the Monster in, what bike would you gravitate towards? Towards Streetfighter?
Yeah. Naturally, because of, you know, I like the naked bike style.
Yeah.
For my riding style, it's definitely Streetfighter.
Yeah. So why don't you throw a leg over real quick? So how tall are you, John?
I'm 5'10", 5'11", maybe.
So similar to where I'm at. Yeah. So
I like to say I'm 5'11" with shoes.
But you're basically never going to be really limited by seat length.
No, I can almost flat foot most of Ducatis. Like you're pretty much in the zone at 5'10", 5'11". For most bikes, they're set up.
And this has a pretty high seat, I would say.
Yeah, this is a little bit higher seat, which can be alleviated in a lot of ways. But luckily I'm not height challenged in that way, and so I don't ever have to do too much adjustment. Plus, I fall into the weight range that these bikes are kind of.
The stock setup.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, that kind of checks all the boxes. He's coming from a sport bike background, right? So as you get into that 30, 35, 37 range, you start to get a little bit sick of sport bikes. Yeah. And you want to keep your license. So it's kind of the same thing how I said I gravitated towards this. Yep. Or even a Diablo or a Monster. You know? Yeah, the upright position for your daily riding is just, it's, some people can do it. Man, I've seen guys upwards of 60s riding 899s as daily drivers. You can do it, but it's not going to be the most comfortable. Especially and now when you have something like this, why sacrifice anything else when you have all the best of worlds right here? So there you go. There's an advanced rider who has ridden all kinds of different bikes, and at this stage in his life, he would probably walk out of here with a Streetfighter. All right, so I went and pulled Corey out of the what's it called back there? Thank you, the service department, because he's a younger guy. How old are you, Corey?
25.
25. Okay, perfect. So John was probably just like you when he was your age, riding sport bikes, right? So the first question is, what's your riding experience?
I'd say more towards the advanced, but in the middle.
No, I think you're advanced, dude. You ride track. You have a 1299.
I like the sciences behind all the bikes.
Yeah.
I like learning the new things with all different types of bikes.
Yeah, so you're kind of in the same category of once you get into that advanced level and you love riding, you can see the benefit of having every one of these bikes. And I talked about that. That's why, and no matter what bike you have, once you get to a certain level, you always want one more bike, you know, because you know like how fun it is to ride that bike, how fun it is to ride that bike. It depends on your mood, right?
You can't choose.
Yeah, exactly. But for the sake of this video, we're saying like if you only had one bike and you could walk out of a bike or out of the showroom with a bike today, which one would you choose? So advanced level, right? The type of riding that you do. What is the type of riding?
I mean,
fun.
For myself, I'm hopping through the canyons.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hopping through little fast, tight roads.
Yeah.
If I'm not allowed to go to track.
Yeah, okay, so you're definitely a track guy. Yeah, and then fun, canyon, weekend warrior, that kind of stuff, similar to what we do. Okay, so
Today's when he rides to work. So.
Yeah, and you do commute sometimes, yeah, which does take into play a naked bike versus a fairing bike, because as surprising as it may be, something like this could be a little bit better actually than a Streetfighter, yeah, for commuting, because there's a lot more wind protection.
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So if you, Corey, were gonna pick a bike in here, what would you pick?
What do you have right now?
I have the Panigale
Yeah, a 1299.
2015.
Yeah.
1299.
Yeah, the poster bike. Yeah.
I mean, for me, if I'm hopping around on the canyons, this is the perfect one right here.
Really? You would take that? Holy crap. Okay, so
I will
annihilate.
promise on my words that I will eat you up in the canyons on this.
No shit. So that's great, because I haven't talked about these at all. Yeah. So adventure bikes, right? Which is basically what these are. This is a Ducati Pikes Peak. Is it a 1260? Is that what this one is? Yeah, 1260. So honestly, they're pretty much discontinued now, right? They're not going to make these anymore. So you want to sit on this real quick, Corey? Yeah, that's perfect. Christina can too. So with something like this, I've never ridden the 1260, but I have ridden the 950, and the previous co-owner of this shop, Carlin, he raced up Pikes Peak on this. This is a model based after his race bike, actually. So that's where the tricolore scheme came from, and he set multiple world records on this bike. So it is very, very capable, and it's 157 turns up Pikes Peak. So we're talking. Yeah, so Corey, that's an interesting choice. So on this bike, not only could you commute on this bike, right? You could commute. Obviously, you could go crush canyons on it, and you could probably take it to a track too.
Honestly, I've seen more Pikes Peaks at the track than any other bike. Like
Really?
Hypers, Monsters.
Holy
anything else
shit.
we would take to the track, they're not there.
I did not know that.
Snaggers.
Because to look at this bike, and if you didn't know anything about it, it looks bigger, so you might think that wouldn't handle very well, right?
Yeah, honestly, it is intimidating.
Yeah.
When you sit on it, it's like, wow.
It's a lot of bike.
But you take this thing down the road, it's...
As soon as it gets rolling, yeah, I said, so when I rode the 950, it was kind of intimidating because I don't ride that kind of bikes, but as soon as you get rolling on it, I said it feels like a flying, what did I say? A flying armchair that has a ton of performance because you're comfortable, you know, but yet you can just like rip around on it too. Yeah, so that's crazy. So there you go. Like, yeah, this is a very good all-around bike, and they actually sell really well for that reason. And I'm kind of shocked that this bike is still sitting here.
And if you have a second passenger, they're actually
Yes.
back. Look at the size
Yep.
of the seat back.
Look at that. You can
Compared
actually,
to any sport bike
Corey
or
can
any
rip
other-
through the canyons, pick up a chick at the bar, and take her home.
Exactly.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I did not think that. So this is like one of the bikes you want to get eventually?
For sure.
That's freaking badass, because you already have a 1299. Yeah.
And this is just way too easy to go back foot to work, or if I want to go to the canyon.
Still do it. If you want to go to the track, I win. So there you go, guys. We're going to have a canyon contest with Corey. He's going to be on the Pikes Peak Multi. Bring all your sport bikes, and then we're going to see who wins. Sweet. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
All right, we got Preston here, sales or parts guy, parts extraordinaire, riding experience. Where would you put yourself?
23 years.
23. Okay, we're putting you at advanced. We're putting him in advanced. And then, what type of riding do you do? Like, what's your favorite type?
Primarily track and street.
Oh, track and street.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were going to pick a bike in here, what would you gravitate towards?
The V2.
The V2. Really? Let's walk over to the Build Series bike then. There's a reason why you liked this bike, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the Panigale is just for my body type, my ergonomics, fits me the best.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the bike I'm the most comfortable on. That comfortability gives you the most confidence to push the limits and just be safer, because if I'm not focusing on being comfortable on the bike, I can put more attention to what's out there. Yeah, I agree. And so that's funny, because here's a guy who's an advanced guy. He's ridden the track. He's dragging his knee, you know, all that kind of stuff. And he's not choosing a 220 horsepower Panigale V4. He's choosing a V2 150 horsepower. And I think that's important, because in today's culture, it's all about what's the highest horsepower, and manufacturers are constantly pushing the boundaries of horsepower. And I think a lot of people are getting bikes that they don't need to be on, and especially not to have the most amount of fun. You know, it's just a pissing contest. So
Who's faster?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
It doesn't matter how much the bike makes. It matters how much you can use.
yeah.
And nowadays with all these rider aids, you can definitely dial the V2 into going up to what you need or dial it down to what you don't need.
Yeah, there you go. And that's a perfect way to segue into the fact that I'm giving this bike away right here. So if you guys want to win a Panigale V2 or a Ducati Streetfighter, Campisi Customs, it's always the first link in the description below. Thank you, Preston, I appreciate it. And that leaves us with our last employee here at Ducati Santa Barbara, which would be Trevor, sales guy, sales manager. Riding experience.
12, 15 years, something like that.
Okay. What type of riding do you do?
I'm a track only rider now.
Track only?
Yeah, track
okay,
only now.
interesting.
So for me, if I was going to go back to street riding, the Hyper 950 SP
For the street?
for the street would be my choice of bike, just because I just don't.
It's the most fun to have on the street.
It's by far the most fun bike in the room.
Yeah, and, and that's important. And you know what's funny, Trevor, is when I was talking about bikes for our next build series and stuff like that, this bike had more comments than any other bike in the showroom. People saying this bike.
You know, it's really underrated. People walk by it a lot because they think, you know, it's just not the newest, sexiest thing out there. But for me, I think that's the funnest bike in the room.
Yeah.
But being that I ride on the track now, it's got to be a Panigale.
Okay, there we go. Somebody had to choose a Panny, baby.
I gotta go with the Panigale.
So would you do a V4?
I would, yeah. I usually ride middleweight bikes. I think they're more usable on the track.
Which you have an R6 track bike?
I have my R6. So if I was going to get a Halo bike, just the absolute tip top, I mean, there's nothing like this out right now.
No.
It's just, it's the pinnacle of engineering in motorcycles right now.
Yep. And it looks incredible too.
Yeah, the new 2020 fairings look freaking insane.
Yeah.
The wings.
Yep.
There's just no bike like this out right now, so.
Yep, that is literally the poster bike, and I believe they've sold more Panigales than every other sport bike combined in the past couple of years, right?
Yeah, this bike is,
It's insane.
It just does everything right.
Yep, it does, and it's still comfortable too, and that's what I was telling them earlier. It's still a comfortable bike for sport bike standards.
Yeah,
it's still a comfortable bike, yeah.
It doesn't have that deep, super long reach that a lot of sport bikes have.
And you sit down into it, unlike the RSV4 where you're a little bit, you know what I mean, it's a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, and I mean, you can take this bike out to the track and change absolutely nothing on it. Just take it out in stock trim. It's ready to ride.
Yep.
It's got the lightweight wheels. It's got great exhaust. It's got
suspension, modes, electronics.
It's got track and race modes. It's got every option you can think of.
Yeah.
It would be my choice if I mean, just look at Moto America, what's going on with the V4Rs, and it's
they're crushing.
Yeah. They're untouchable right now.
Well, cool. That's awesome. Nobody had chosen one of these yet, so that's a perfect choice for you. Appreciate it. Okay, so I think that's going to do it, guys. We got everyone's opinions, and it was kind of cool to see people choose different bikes. You know, I'm in the 3-bike kind of range, but I chose the V4 SP. Preston's on the V2. We had Trevor on the V4 or possibly the Hyper if he's going to be doing street riding.
Corey on the Multra.
Who was it?
Corey.
Oh, Corey was on the Multistrada, which is so cool, and I totally forgot about that bike. And then we had John on the Streetfighter right here, but he owns a Monster as well. So I hope that helps you guys kind of make decisions on your own personal bikes. And if you still have questions and you want to know like more details about individual bikes, you can shoot me a message on my Instagram page. It's just at JaretCampisi, and I'll try to answer your questions as much as I possibly can. And it doesn't have to be just about Ducatis, it can be any brand. It just so happens that this is the shop that we have here locally in Santa Barbara, so I like to support them as much as I possibly can. Also, feel free to give them a call, guys. Santa Barbara Ducati, all these bikes in here are for sale, and Trevor or Preston or John or whoever can help you guys get the right bike for you, and you can support our local shop as well. So I hope that helps you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you think it'll help a friend or family member, send it along to them. If you have more questions, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget about entering to win motorcycles, patreon.com/CampisiCustoms. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and we'll see you in the next video.